Okay, hello everybody. My name's Scotty, and yeah, I'm doing a recording while my camera is mounted on the windshield. I'm paying attention to the road primarily, and I'll look at the camera here and there, but primarily I'm going to be talking to you guys while I drive, and oh Jesus, that is a nasty piece of accident. And just talking, and I'm doing some voice lines. One of the things that came up recently I wanted to talk to you folks about was NetherRealm Studios and how they really just kind of fucked the pooch here. When NetherRealm did their thing and they made Mortal Kombat initially, we were all so excited. We loved Mortal Kombat. And yeah, Mortal Kombat's a pretty tight game. Recently, however, my boycott list has expanded. My boycott list has expanded from simple, sweet EA Games and Activision to EA Games, Activision, and NetherRealm. NetherRealm Studios made my boycott list after one incident. This one incident was the reporting of 100-hour work week mandatory shifts, and yeah, 100-hour work weeks are unacceptable. It's a failure of the management, like Jim Sterling has said. It's not a triumph of the workforce. The only triumph of the workforce in a 100-hour work week is putting up with it. And that's a marginal victory at best. Is surviving the 100-hour work weeks. That's not fucking acceptable. You can't do that. Human beings start to slow down at 40 hours. That's why it's the standard. At 50 hours, humans stop being efficient. They stop being effective as people, not just as workers. At 100 hours a week, okay, it's not legal to have somebody work 20 hours a day, so the 5-day work week wouldn't happen. That means you're working either 6 or 7 days a week at between, 14 and 15 hours a day? Yeah, that's not on. That's fucked. That's properly messed up. 14 and 15 hour shifts shouldn't be normal. They really shouldn't. Particularly in an entertainment industry. That's just fucked. And yeah, I'm in the car, I'm paying attention to the road, trying to keep an eye on traffic. So my presentations are going to be a little bit behind. Something I would like to point out with the NetherRealm situation is that this is not NetherRealm exclusively. A lot of development companies do this. You get 100-hour work weeks, and you're either coerced or forced into doing fucking stupidly long shifts. That's not on. You can't do that. Like, doing that to your people is abuse. Plain and simple. What else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, fucking. The reason NetherRealm made my boycott list in one incident is because it wasn't one game. It's been reported that this 100-hour work week nonsense has been the standard at that company for a long time. It's been reported that both Injustice games and Mortal Kombat 11, 10, and 9 all suffered those kinds of development conditions. That's just fucked up. No amount of smoothing over is gonna change how messed up that is. So, thanks NetherRealm for being fuckheads. You're not seeing a dime from me. Ever. Until NetherRealm can fix their shit and start treating their developers like human beings, they won't see so much as a spare penny out of my pocket. Just fuck you, dude. That's not okay. Aside from the news, there's some... there was a video I put up yesterday, late yesterday, sorry, on the YouTube channel. That was it was mostly about me talking about villains and what makes a good villain and elements of a good villain, and really I do like my villains. Villain. God, I said it so many times I'm starting to fuck up the word. I think that I'm sure there's a phrase for when you've said something so many times that you start to, like, it starts to lose its tack as a word. It starts to break down. I don't know the phrase for this, but yeah. I like my bad guys. I actually prefer my bad guys. I prefer being the bad guy. In that I would personally rather be the bad guy than compromise who I am on a fundamental level. I'm not saying I'm not willing to change if I'm really genuinely hurting people, but I'm perfectly willing to be marginally offensive, and I'm perfectly willing to be an utter asshole because I'm an asshole. There's no way around that. Something I would like to point out too is that when I do bits on villainy and voice acting, it's mostly for fun. I'm trying to grow my audience base so that my message can reach more folks. And I just want folks to hear what I have to say about, the reviews that I do and the news pieces that I do. And in order to grow my audience for that, I have to do fun stuff so that you guys aren't getting bored of me bitching all the time and giving you news articles that you can easily get somewhere else and from much more entertaining individuals. To be perfectly frank, I know I'm not very good yet. That said, I do enjoy voice acting. I do enjoy villains. Like, it's not a bit. I do enjoy that. Let's see. I'm trying to think of who I should do next. Oh yeah. So, let's see. Let's try and get some voice acting done. As a disclaimer, I am sitting down, of course. Driving. So I might stutter and stop while I'm watching the road. You're only going to get core engagement out of me when I'm at a stoplight, basically, so... Let's see. Who should I be today? Well, that's the thing about acting of any kind, is that you have to be the character. Like, Sir Ian McClellan said it perfectly when he was talking about how he acts. Because Sir Ian's a method actor. He throws himself into the part. He's not pretending to be Gandalf. He's not pretending to be Magneto. He's taking this person's life and internalizing it and acting as he would were that his life. And, were those the choices that he made, and were those his opinions, and so on and so forth. It's a wonderful way to do acting because it's just being someone else. There's a difference between acting and... there's a difference between acting professionally and putting on an act. Colloquially, putting on an act is pretending to be someone, is pretending to do this or that. But professional acting, voice acting or otherwise, is more about bringing a character to life. It's not about pretending to be somebody else, it's about being someone else for a little while. So the best actors are always, going to be a little bit nuts, because in order to create those kinds of separations in your psyche and do the best separation, you have to really go for it. And to really go for it, you have to be somebody like, I don't know, like Johnny Depp. So you do have to be a little bit nuts, but that's okay. I mean, a little low scale crazy is perfectly fine. Oh, that's so I could be. Gaston. Gaston's actually one of my favorite villains because he's, well, all the Disney villains more or less are done well. Gaston is a great villain for a few reasons. I think the one that I don't see talked about as often as deserves to be talked about is that Gaston is not he's not a monster to be conquered. He's not an evil witch. Gaston is essentially just the weakness of the human condition personified. And yeah, I said weakness. Like, yeah, he's a buff boy and he knows it, but he's also really incredibly insecure about who he is, and he constantly seeks affirmation of his own talent and strength. And like, if he didn't have people around him constantly praising his skills and his strength, and no one plays chess like Gaston, no one spits like Gaston. Yeah, if he didn't have people doing that all the time, he would kind of lose steam. So there's a bit of an ego thing going on there, but there's also genuine fear that he might not actually be, the best. And in order to be the best, he has to cut other people down. It's not an option for him. He has to cut down the opposition, and he has to make sure that nobody else is allowed to be as awesome as he is. It's one of the reasons why he goes after Belle, actually, or it appears to be, because Belle is better than he is. Belle is smarter. She's more human in the better ways. She exemplifies some of the better characteristics of humanity, and he exemplifies some of the worst characteristics of humanity. They're really interesting case studies back and forth, because Belle is the humanized, let's take care of one another, let's be kind and compassionate about this. And Gaston is all ego. He is all, what can I get out of this? What will benefit me? How can I be better? But not like better for myself, but how may I get stronger? How may I get more social prestige? And he's turned that into a lifestyle. He's turned gaining more and more like prestige and strength and just things in general. He essentially believes that all of it belongs to him. Because he's the best in his own little world, everything belongs to him. And going after Belle is like a reaffirmation of that. He needs to have the prettiest wife. He needs to have the wife that he thinks will give him the strongest or the most beautiful children. He needs to do that, but he also needs to bring Belle down. Like, if Belle was smart and kind and compassionate and all that stuff, but she was ugly, he wouldn't have tried to marry her. He probably would have, done a full carry and like covered her in pig's blood, and like whatever he would have done around Belle would have been to degrade her exclusively. But because she's pretty, and not only pretty, but the prettiest girl in town, he has to have her. Because in Gaston's mind, he can't let her be on her own. She's not allowed to be Belle in Gaston's world, because being Belle in Gaston's world means that if she's not attached to him, then there's someone who's smarter than he is, and they're pretty, and he has no power over them, and that's just not acceptable in his eyes. So, and it's a woman. He's not allowed to be under a woman in his own little world there. So, he has to have Belle. He has to have her. And in having to have her and own her so that she will never rise above him, socially or otherwise, no one else is allowed to have her either, because having a beautiful wife that is more beautiful than his would place them above him on the social status on some level, and he can't have that. You'll notice that when they do the song, no one spits like Gaston, he has to be the best at everything. And one line, I think, exemplifies that perfectly. No one cheats like Gaston. You're not allowed to beat him. You're not allowed to be better than him at anything, because if you are, he will cheat. He will find a way to win or to be seen as the winner no matter what, because it's not acceptable for him to lose at anything. He's not actually the best, and it's actually shown a few times throughout that little song that, he's really not the best at everything. Actually, it would be argued that he's not the best at almost anything. He's maybe the best at drinking and fighting and hunting, but when he wrestles, he bites. That's not allowed in any culture that I know of, anyway. When he plays chess and he's losing and he's on the back foot, he knocks the board away. When someone else shows up that might be a threat to his masculinity or his strength or anything, he abuses them and finds a way for them to worship him instead of recognizing their own strengths. LeFou is actually a really nice foil to this, because LeFou, he's a bit of a dolt, but he's also Gaston's hype man, and he has to stay subservient to Gaston for him to remain relevant. He has to serve Gaston, who actually is, pretty goddamn strong. He's fairly attractive. He's, if not at the top of most of the things he's trying to do, very close to it, give or take the chess thing. And And without LeFou's hype man nonsense, Gaston wouldn't be the town darling like he is. I mean, yeah, he'd be a few people's favorite because hunting in France in those times, like, if you were a good hunter, people were your friends because they needed your service. But without LeFou, Gaston's ego and his fan base wouldn't get so inflamed. Without LeFou, Gaston isn't a villain. He's just a dickhead. Without LeFou, Gaston doesn't get pumped up. The town doesn't get incentivized to worship him like that. I mean, he's always going to do a little bit of that himself, but without LeFou, Gaston is just a strong guy who knows how to hunt. And, is a little bit attractive. He doesn't get that chorus of constant praise, and he needs that. He needs LeFou. So really, Gaston isn't the villain. The villain is Gaston and LeFou. And yes, I'm fully aware that LeFou is basically just the fool. I mean, okay, that's not the hardest stretch, but LeFou isn't a fool because he's too stupid to be anything else. That's how he has to survive. Without hiding behind someone's shadow like he does with Gaston, LeFou kinda doesn't have anything. He's a scheming, manipulative little rat, and without somebody like Gaston to prop him up, like even super tangentially, he's just a reedy little nerd who, doesn't have anything to offer to society. So yeah, Gaston is an amazing villain.